Tennessee Titans fans, we are back today checking out a video from the channel that really started all of this, reacting to media clips and podcasters and YouTubers talking about the Titans. They once upon a time posted a video called "The Tennessee Titans Suck," and I gave my thoughts on that video and have been doing it with other videos ever since. That same channel has posted a video 9 days ago called "Will Levis Sucks." The difference between this one and the last one I watched from them is that this one is currently hard to argue with. But let's see what they have to say. Here we go.
No doubt in my mind that the funniest possible outcome to start the seasons for the Titans was to not only start 0-3, but to do so at the hands of Malik Willis. And that is exactly what happened. And
I don't know if funny would be the word that I would use, but this video was posted before the Dolphins game from the other night, so this was right after the Green Bay game, and you know what? It was awful. A terrible thing to happen, and you know, see if they can recover ultimately.
Will Levis continues to just have horrendous highlights each week, and they are getting
terrible clip to show right there. Of all of the highlights you could have shown, you showed me one of the worst reps you will ever see from a right tackle. I mean, there are other clips you could have shown, but instead they chose the one that actually kind of where there was nothing else he could have done. There were other clips you could have chosen.
Harder and harder to watch. Now, I did not have...
So is it funny or is it hard to watch? Make up your mind. Is it funny or is it hard to watch?
A lot of faith in the Titans coming into the season. A lot of Titans fans disagreed, but I just didn't think that this was a very good team. I don't believe in Will Levis, no matter how much I do want to. I do really like Brian Callahan, but unfortunately, it is year one for him. I think he's the right guy to get the Titans right, but it might take some time. And honestly, I think it's going to take a different quarterback to do that. Levis just...
I like Callahan. My complaint really isn't with Callahan. I mean, Will Levis has been bad, and I think there are elements of this team that have been good. That just doesn't get as much attention when you start 0-3, 1-3 now. You know, I think the rookie T'Vondre Sweat, defensive tackle, has been really good. I think the defense overall has been good. In 4 games, they've looked good in 3 of them. You know, I think Calvin Ridley has done a lot of good things. It's hard to do good things when your quarterback, you know, has trouble getting you the ball. And I think there are, you know, J.C. Latham, the left tackle they took, has been really good. So there are some good things happening, but when the quarterback ain't right, and he hasn't been so far, that is just, that kind of sets everything back.
Doesn't look like the guy. It's been a bad start to the season, and losing to Malik Willis really does feel like rock bottom. Now remember...
Okay, losing to Malik Willis is bad. I just think you also have to keep in mind that there are certain organizations in the NFL where quarterbacks just go to succeed, and that's Green Bay. Green Bay is one of those. And so Malik Willis is in a much better situation than he was in Tennessee. But yes, very, very, like one of those that can only go up from here moments.
The Titans drafted Malik Willis in the 3rd round back in 2022, and he was even considered a first-round pick at times. He started 2 games in Tennessee, and he never threw a touchdown while he was a Titan. It seemed pretty obvious he wasn't the long-term option, and they ended up trading him away to the Packers for a 7th-round pick. Jordan Love got hurt, and suddenly Willis was the starter instead of Sean Clifford, so the trade obviously was a good call for the Packers. Willis ended up throwing his first career touchdown pass and helped the Packers beat the Colts in week 2. And now against the Titans, this was definitely a revenge game for him, and he had the...
Despite the fact that he said over and over again, this is not a revenge game. But whatever makes better headlines.
Best game of his NFL career by far. He threw for 200 yards, had a touchdown, and he rushed for 70 yards and a touchdown. The game was tied 7-7 in the first quarter, and then the Packers dropped 20 straight points and eventually did win 30-14. It was
the one performance that I said was bad for the defense so far. This game.
Bad look for the Titans, and there is just no way around that. They needed to get right, and they couldn't, and it came at the hands of Malik Willis, who 100% looked like the better quarterback compared to Will Levis, who the Titans essentially replaced him with. The game against the Packers really did look...
Replaced him? Like, what are we even talking about? Malik Willis was never replaced, because there was never... I mean... He literally was never the starter. It was never like, oh, Malik. He was viewed as a project from the word go. When he got his opportunities, there were other factors too, but when he got his opportunities, he never looked like he did in Green Bay when he was in Tennessee. I don't know what to tell you. He never looked like that. So they replaced him with Will Levis. I mean, he should have played better. I don't know what to tell you. We should have coached him better. We should have put him in a better position. Whatever. All I'm saying is Malik started, or he didn't start, but he played in a game last year, and it was horrible. Levis played in some games last year, and he was good. Like, what else are you supposed to do in that situation?
Look like every other Titans game this season, where the Titans just could not move the ball on offense. You can tell that it is just not a good offensive unit, and even despite trying to bring in some better players, some better weapons, it still is just completely stagnant. And I thought maybe, yes, that could improve with Brian Callahan, but we're not seeing a lot from Will Levis. I think he's been a really big issue so far this season, and he's really not even in that good of a spot to succeed. The offensive line has been really, really bad. When you watch Will Levis, he's getting hit with 3-man rushes coming from the opposing team, and
that's true. I will say it's different because the offensive line is a unit, whereas the quarterback's one guy. But the thing that scares me about Will is that I see the offensive line improving slowly, but I see the offensive line slowly getting better. I can't say the same for Will, you know?
he's still getting hit really fast. They just cannot block up front. It's making things really hard for Will Levis, and he continues to make these really, really dumb decisions. Meanwhile, Malik Willis has looked pretty good. You know, you wonder if the Titans maybe gave up on him a little too soon. He's a great running quarterback. I think he's really versatile.
He would not be as successful in Tennessee. You put him in the exact same situation in Tennessee, it wouldn't have worked. I mean, blame it on coaching, blame it on system, blame it on organization, blame it on culture, whatever. Blame it on the alcohol if you want to, but all I'm saying is Malik Willis had his chance in Tennessee, and he never looked that good. So maybe there's enough blame to go around, but...
And he played really, really well, and he's been great to replace Jordan Love so far. Even when that trade happened, I did not think Malik Willis was going to be a guy who was going to eventually start games or be any good, but here we are. He's now 2-0 as a starter, he looks pretty good, and he just beat the team that essentially gave up on him after drafting him in the first place. Which I will say Willis has handled in the best possible way. When he was asked about it being a revenge game and asked, you know, what are your thoughts on playing the Titans, the team that did draft you and traded you, he basically was like, hey, like they're the team that gave me a shot in this league, which I actually love. He's such a likable guy, and it's great to see him. He's not the long-term option. They're just waiting for Jordan Love to get back, but it's cool to see. And honestly, he's not the long-term option, but Will Levis I don't think is either. I was really hoping that Will Levis would come out this year and put together a good season and just prove that he could maybe be the guy in Tennessee, but man, that has just not been the case at all. And what's rough is he had...
I mean, let's please note they've played a month. Like, I know it's been bad and people are down on Will, and I get that, but like, I mean, to talk in these statements that are like, boy, it just didn't work out, did it? It's like, are we in week 14 or are we in week 4? Like, we're talking about it like the season's already in the rear view. So far, yes, it has not been good, but like, there's 13 games left. Can we please? I mean, Sheesh.
Has looked good at times, but he just continues to make boneheaded mistakes. We have 3 weeks of now 3 just insane photos of him during some insane decision, bad gaffe. Week 1 was the photo of him literally on his knees in shambles after a turnover. And then week 2, it's him airborne before making one of the worst decisions you'll ever see of him basically just tossing the football up. And now we have a new one of him basically with a guy on top of him and the ball right behind him in the backfield. It has been just an insane run for Levis, and it really makes you question his future with the Titans. Brian Callahan has made it clear he is still the quarterback going forward, but it's been bad. You know, Levis has already turned the ball over 8 times in 3 games. That is the most in the league, and that's obviously played a very big role in the Titans being 0-3. Now, to be fair, there are a lot of other issues too. The offensive line in front of them hasn't been good, and that's something I really do think is eventually going to get fixed. I am just a full believer in Bill Callahan. He's the offensive line coach, and Brian Callahan is his son. You know, he's just a great coach. He's been an interim. He's been an NFL head coach. I think he's going to be able to fix the line, and the Titans have definitely made the line a priority. They've taken back-to-back offensive linemen in the first round. They just took J.C. Latham, who's playing at left tackle. Next to him is left guard Peter Skoronski, who was a 2023 first-rounder. The Titans also brought in Lloyd Cushenberry at center. You know, you have to at least give him credit for trying to fix the line, but it might take some time. It's a little tougher when you don't even have Derrick Henry, who was the one guy who was able to run through a bad line and still somehow...
Can't even argue with that because, I mean, we watched him in Baltimore the other night, although, I mean, some people will say this is crazy. I don't think Derrick Henry would make this team any better. This is a year where we knew coming in, they're trying to figure out what they've got with Levis. So far, it hadn't been good, but they're going to stick with it so that at the end, they can make their decision about what to do going forward. But really, like I said earlier, if you don't have the right guy at quarterback, if the quarterback's not playing well, then it really doesn't... It kind of negates anything good going on anywhere else.
I'll churn out productive performances. Now it's Tony Pollard running the show in the backfield, who I have high hopes for. My buddy Jake is a big Titans fan, and we've been talking all offseason about how Tony Pollard could be a good running back. I liked Tyjae Spears a lot last year. They said it was going to be a bit of a split between Pollard and Spears. It's definitely been a lot more Pollard. And then just like the run game, the passing game just isn't great either, despite them really trying to give Will Levis weapons. You know, they did try. DeAndre Hopkins is still there, but now you've added Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, who's already a very good, proven number 3 receiver, and Levis really just doesn't even have enough time to throw the ball to them. The Titans season just isn't going to plan, but they have at least been very competitive. The first 2 games of the year were both one-score games with a 24-17 final, and really they should have won in week 1 against the Bears and Caleb Williams. 100% they should have won that game. The defense looked great for Tennessee. They completely shut down Caleb, but it didn't matter. The Titans lost the game with just silly mistakes. An awful Will Levis turnover loses them the game. They had to turn around and try to figure things out against the Jets, and they couldn't. It was actually tied going into the 4th quarter, but the Jets scored late and won. It was 2 close losses, 2 games they both could have won. 1 game they definitely should have won, in my opinion, and it felt like they could have won either one, and they just came up short, which is just demoralizing. Then they tried to get in the win column against the Packers, and obviously they couldn't. Now, luckily, I do think there is a chance the Titans don't lose another game until week 6. It helps having a bye in between, but the Titans can definitely beat...
They won't lose a game until week 6. Week 5, they're not playing anyone. You know...
the Dolphins, I think, who don't have Tua Tagovailoa right now. Then there's the Colts right after the bye, and Anthony Richardson has been horrendous in back-to-back weeks now. He is just hard to watch these last few weeks. But even with wins there, I don't expect it to lead to any kind of postseason push, but the Titans have a chance to bounce back and at least look a lot better. This season for the Titans, I don't think is about making the playoffs. I don't think it was about making the playoffs before it started, even though a lot of fans, I think, did have that hope. I just don't think this is a team that's anywhere close to even being a playoff team. I think they're on the first step to getting there, which I think was getting a new head coach. I really like Brian Callahan. He's a guy that I 100% am rooting for to really succeed with the Titans. I really like Bill Callahan. You know, he was the interim in Washington, so I obviously had a big liking for him. He was great on the Browns, and I still think it's so cool that the Browns actually decided to let him get out of his contract and go to the Titans to coach with his son, which is so cool. One of the very few cool things things and good moral decisions the Browns have made in years. I also do
one of the only good moral decisions that the Browns have made in years.
like Will Levis a lot. You know, I watched him a lot at Kentucky. I thought he was super, super fun to watch. I thought he should have gone way earlier in that draft. I think if he would have been drafted in that Kenny Pickett draft, he would have been by far the best quarterback in that draft if he was in that Malik Willis draft. I still think he has a lot of talent. He just needs to stop with some of these terrible decisions. I think you still have to ride him for the rest of this season. I think it'd be a mistake to go to a backup, to go to Mason Rudolph. We already know what Mason Rudolph is at this point. There is no point in starting Mason Rudolph. Either start Will Levis and be terrible and get a really high pick and then decide to take a guy like Carson Beck or Shedeur Sanders next year.
He did not just say Carson Beck. No, thank you.
Viewers, I think that's the much better option than just putting in Mason Rudolph and trying to win a couple games. See if Will Levis can turn around. See if Will Levis can turn out to be anything and continue to build this up and continue to get Brian Callahan in there to get used to this season, get used to his first year as an NFL head coach. I'm rooting for the Titans to figure it out. I think they can under Brian Callahan. I just think they need a new quarterback.
That's certainly what it comes down to, and that's what we knew going in. I mean, listen, I don't have much faith in him right now either. But you got Kurt Warner, who's a Hall of Famer. He's on Twitter saying, hey, got to give him time. Got to give these young guys time. You got Aaron Rodgers on a Pat McAfee show saying, hey, you got to give these guys time. So I definitely think there's some merit there based on who's saying it. I don't know. We'll see.